Bonjour, mes amis, and welcome to another exciting lesson in the French language. What have I got for you today? Well, let's look at some possessive adjectives. Those are the adjectives we use, of course, to show who owns what. In English, it's a very simple matter. We have quite a few forms, but not too difficult. My, your, his, her, our, your in the plural, and then their. And I would use those to show possession. But the thing in English is we just have the one form. What I mean by that is that if I want to talk about my car, I would say my car. If I made that plural, I would still keep the same possessive adjective. I would say my cars. In other words, I just have the one form. It doesn't matter if the noun is singular or plural. Well, in French, you know that's not going to be true. It's going to make a difference. And not only is it going to make a difference as to whether or not the noun is singular or plural, it's also going to make a difference, of course, as to whether or not the noun is masculine or feminine. Because remember, in French, our adjectives, including possessive adjectives, have to agree in gender and in number with the noun that they modify. So that means we're going to have to deal with quite a few more possessive adjectives in French than we're used to dealing with in English. But fortunately, they do kind of follow a pattern, so it's not too difficult to learn and get a hold of. All right, let me show you what I mean. Let's start with my. Okay, I've got a masculine singular noun, and I want to say my. All right, in French, that word is mon. Notice it ends at on, that nice nasal sound, mon. And here I've got a word down here, stylo. There's a masculine singular noun. So I would say mon stylo for my pen. All right? If my noun is feminine singular, of course I'm not going to use mon. Instead, I'm going to use the word ma. Such as with the word car, which is feminine, I would say ma voiture. Ma voiture. Okay? Means my car. But you see the difference. Mon stylo, ma voiture. Now, fortunately, all the plurals have the same possessive adjective, so we don't have to worry about whether it's masculine plural or feminine plural. It doesn't matter. Okay? So the plural here is going to be mes. And here's the word cats, chat. That's a nice plural noun. Mes chats. So I have mon stylo, ma voiture, mes chats. All three of them mean my, but a different word is used according to whether it's masculine singular, feminine singular, or whether it's plural. So it's mon, ma, mes. All right, let's look at your singular, talking to one person here. What if I want to say your? Well, look, it's going to be ton. Well, that looks pretty much like mon. All right, ton. The feminine singular is going to be ta. Do you see a pattern forming? And the plural is going to be te. Ton, ta, te. All right. Let's look again at that masculine singular noun. If I want to say your pen, I would say ton stylo. All right, masculine singular. If I wanted to say your car, I would say ta voiture. All right. If I wanted to say your cats, tes chats. Ton, ta, te. All three mean your, but we've got one for the masculine singular, one for the feminine singular, and one for the plural. All right? Now let's try his or her. And I know what you're saying. What do you mean his or her? Well, one other difference in French from English with the possessive adjectives is that in French they use the same word for his or her. So you can't tell which one you mean until you know the context of the sentence. And that does make it a little bit more tricky to translate and to understand, but you get used to it. In French, it's not important. The gender of the owner is not important. It's the gender of the noun that's important. All right, in English, it's important to us what the gender of the owner is. We want to know, is it his or is it her? To us, that makes a difference. To the French, they're not so much concerned with that difference. So they use the same word for both his or her. And that word for the masculine singular is son. All right, do you see the pattern? So the feminine singular will be sa, and the plural will be say, just like the others. Mon mame, ton tate, son sa say. So if I wanted to say his pen, I would say son stylo. This can also mean her pen. All right? His car or her car would be sa voiture. And his cats or her cats would be ses chats, ses chats. Son stylo, sa voiture, ses chats. All right? This same word for his and her is going to be a bit tricky at first. You're going to find yourself wanting to use the feminine anytime you mean her. And you're going to want to use the masculine anytime you mean his. And that's just not how it works. But like I said, you'll get used to it. All right. Now, let's move on to our plural possessive adjectives. All right. What if I wanted to say our? Well, now you notice a change here. We're no longer going to be concerned about masculine or feminine. Once we get to the plural possessive adjectives, we have one singular form and one plural form. So it does make it a little bit easier. All right? For both masculine and feminine singular nouns, the word for our is notre. Notre. All right? For the plural, it's going to be no. N-O-S, notice we don't pronounce the S. No. Notre and no. So for our pen, we would say notre stylo. All right? For our car, it's going to be the same word because once we get to these plural possessive adjectives, we're not worried about whether or not it's masculine and feminine, only if it's singular or plural. So it's going to be notre voiture. Notre stylo, notre voiture. But if we're talking about our cats, nos chats, because this one's plural. All right? So how about your plural? I'm talking to a group of people now. All right? Well, watch. Again, you're going to see a pattern. The your to a group of people, singular, is votre. Notre, votre. And I'll bet you can guess what the plural is going to be. And you're right if you said vos. Notre nos, votre vos. So, your pen. That is more than one person owns the pen. Votre stylo. Votre stylo. Your car. All right. Votre voiture. And your cats, vos chats. All right. Now, unfortunately, the pattern's going to break down here with this last one. I wish it could remain the same, but you know the French. They're going to throw in a little hiccup here. All right. For there, we're not going to follow this pattern now. We're going to come up with a totally new word, which is leur. Leur. Isn't that a nice, strong sound? Leur. All right. The plural is the same thing, leur, with an S. So they sound the same, but they're spelled differently. So if I want to talk about their pen, leur stylo. Their car, leur voiture. If I want to talk about their cats, leur chat. All right? You see how that goes. All right? So let's kind of review. In the singular possessive adjectives, we're going to have three forms. One for masculine singular, one for feminine singular, one for the plural. All right? And they follow a very pronounced pattern here. Mon mame, ton tate, son sa say. It's kind of like a little poem. All right? Once we get to the plural possessive adjectives, we no longer worry about gender. We have one form for the singular and one form for the plural. So our is notre nos, your plural, votre vos, and their leur, leur. Now there's just one other thing I need to make you aware of, and that is feminine singular nouns that start with a vowel or an H. do something a little bit different. Let me use the word down here, ami. Okay? Let me just put an X here, and let me get rid of that. All right. And let me make this bigger for you so you can see. Okay. Here I have a feminine singular noun that begins with a vowel. The word ami, which is a friend who is a girl. It's the feminine form of friend, ami. Okay. Normally, if I wanted to say my friend, following our example up here, I would use ma because it is a feminine singular noun, right? So I'd want to say ma ami. However, the French have a problem with the way that sounds. They don't like those two vowel sounds coming together like that. And as we've talked about before, the French will do just about anything, even break their own rules, to make the language sound nice. So, because this sounds too choppy to them, they make an exception in this case, and they say, if you have a feminine singular noun that starts with a vowel, don't use the feminine singular possessive adjective, use the masculine instead. Because that sounds nicer. Mon ami. See, doesn't that flow better than ma ami? Mon ami, ma ami. So, anytime we've got a feminine singular noun that begins with a vowel or an H, we're going to use the masculine form instead of the feminine form. And then, of course, once you get into the plurals here, you don't have to worry about masculine or feminine, so there's not going to be any difference. But in those singular forms, there will be. You'll say mon ami. You'll say ton ami. You'll say son ami. All right, to make it sound better. Well, that's what I've got to say about French possessive adjectives. I thank you for stopping by and spending some time with me. I'll be back again soon with another lesson in French. And until then, à bientôt, mes amis.